Oh, I'm generally pretty good at music, but
Right. I'm just surprised you didn't know that one.
Hey, welcome to the Glen Gauer podcast, the best podcast you'll listen to all day.
All day?
Sponsored by, you betcha, buddy, Mission Blueprint. Hey, buddy, question of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, listen to this one, because it's very serious. If Satan came knocking at your door, would you recognize him? Dennis? If
No.
Satan came at your door, would you?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
You're not sure.
I'm not sure. Would you recognize the devil if he knocked on your door? If he walked through the door with one of your kids?
Probably not. Honestly, I want to say yes. I want to say I've been doing ministry for 32 years. I pray almost every single day of the year. I have a relationship with God. I want to say yes. I don't think so.
And see, I want to say I'm a good judge of character, and I would recognize an evil person if they walked through the door. But I don't know that the devil would necessarily show up with evil intentions at first.
Okay, what would the devil look like if he came knocking at your door? And this is a G-rated show, ladies and gentlemen. No, we could go any direction we wanted to, but this is a G. What do you think?
You know, the social cultural norms of today tells me he'd show up on my cell phone. He'd show up as a distraction. He'd show up as a time consumer. He'd show up as something that would keep me eyes off God. If he's going to come knock on my door, devil in a blue dress. Long golden hair.
Could be. For me, and I think for a lot of men, it would be a woman.
Yeah.
In some shape or form. It reminds me of the story of Padre Pio, Saint Padre Pio, Catholic saint. Have you heard much about Saint Padre Pio?
No, I just have a cousin,
man.
Pedro. Is he related to Pedro Padre?
He is not related.
Not related. Probably got the named after him.
Different familia. Padre Pio goes way back to the early parts of the 20th century. I believe he died around 1968, 1969. He became a Franciscan priest. Stayed in a monastery somewhere in Italy. I can't remember what the name of the monastery is. I had not visited that one. And he is probably most famously known for, he had the wounds of Christ in his hands and his feet, maybe in his side. I can be wrong on that. And the other thing he's really known for is he raised a bunch of money and built a hospital. Padre Pio usually was beat up every night by demons. Totally.
Okay, is that how he got his scars? And
No, that's not how he got his scars.
Okay.
And he has a remarkable life. But I watched the movie about Padre Pio, and there's this one scene where he hears this beautiful woman, and he goes and he hears it. I can't remember what the scenario is, the situation where the woman was. The woman, I believe, was in the monastery, and he goes, and I think it's actually somebody he knew. And in a way, she was seducing him.
Lyrically? Yeah, through her voice, through
Yes.
tempting him, luring him away.
Yes, he was being seduced, and he didn't give in to the seduction. And she disappears.
Don't all women just eventually disappear?
What are you, the mafia?
Honey, where'd you go?
Do you have a second job, man? What are you talking about? Don't they? No, I don't know. Do they? Anyway, this woman disappears. He came to her in the form of a woman, trying to lure him into, in that case, it was adultery. She was married.
Okay.
I think most men, Satan would come in the form of a woman. Not all men, though.
No.
Yeah, he'd come in the form of maybe power or a high position or maybe even a politician.
More money.
Money's a big one. Mm-hmm.
Kind of those fundamental pride. What are the seven deadly sins? Pride, gluttony, like things that represent that or embody those.
Definitely. But what about the women? I know we're a couple of guys here. We're not bachelors anymore. We're married men. But if a woman came, ladies, what do you think? If Satan came knocking at your door, what
Leave
would
comments below?
Yeah, I asked my wife this question,
Okay.
and she said, "Women want security, someone to take care of them." So he'd come in the form of a man willing to take care of you. I'm not sure that all women would say that. What do you think?
No, I mean, as you say this, I mean, doesn't that just sound like the very basic fabric of our culture right now that's tearing and being torn away, where it's threading at the themes, the breakdown of the modern family, and Susie's married to Bob. Well, Bob and Susie decide they can't get married, so Bob goes and marries Carol, and like pretty soon you're just seduced away by what you think you might have with somebody else, and it's not real. Like, isn't that like what we're framing up here?
Yeah, certainly.
Huh. I like where you're going with this.
Here's another question.
Okay.
Let's talk about our community, our local, even government, our local area, Brookings, South Dakota. We both live in Brookings.
And Volga.
If Satan came knocking, or how have we seen Satan knocking at the door of our communities?
Well, if you want to go back the last 2 years, I think this is where we see real. I used to just think it was common sense, like a lack of common sense. And now I just think it's pure evil of how we treat human beings, specifically with how government and certain organizations just got our entire culture to be afraid and took away the women's security, took away a man's ability to work, took a man's ability to provide for his family, shut down businesses, like, and sold fear over and over again. That's what I would say, like, in the last 2 years. Let me think on a little bit more.
Well,
what do you think?
Fear porn is huge in our culture. I was watching the news the other day, and I was on one of these social.
How dare you?
Yeah, I was on one of these social networks, and they were juxtaposing a weather broadcast from 3 years ago, same time of the year, to today. And 3 years ago, they had a map of England, Ireland, Scotland, Western Europe, and in the background, overlaying the countries, they had it was a yellow screen, and then they had numbers for temperatures, and then on the other side of the screen they had today, same exact
Temperatures?
No, temperatures very similar, but it was red instead of yellow. And if you listen closely today in our culture, they're trying to say because of global warming, rather not culture warming, although there is a culture warming, but because of global warming, it's dangerous outside. It might be too hot, and you shouldn't go outside. You should stay indoors.
Yeah.
And it's subtle, but Satan is in the details, right?
It is.
It's right in front of you. So, these things are happening locally. Even we got to be careful what we do outside. Fear is the point of that whole thing. Is fear, and the reason why I want to throw some spiritualness on this is because that's the first thing you brought up.
Yeah.
If Satan came knocking at your door, and he did to Adam and Eve, he used fear. Right?
Mm-hmm. Fear of the unknown.
Right. So fear is a huge tactic that the evil one wants to use as he knocks on our door. Now, it's not fear right away, but in the end, if you don't say yes to the salesman at your door, Satan, you will be losing out on something really big. And do you want that for your life?
Right. And isn't that even a lot of the way modern, again, bringing this local right back here to Brookings, how the family breaks down? Bob starts wondering what it would be like to be with Carol instead of being present with his wife and being here and now and present time consciousness with her. Starts seeing the imagery on their smartphone, starting to see imagery of, well, maybe life would be better with Carol. I mean, she's had 4 kids, but who cares? I mean,
And those thoughts happen all the time with people.
They do.
Yeah. There's another world that is being presented.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, it would be Carol, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I could be more of myself if I was spending more time with Carol.
Right. Or maybe I could just have time to myself. Maybe life wouldn't be so hard. Maybe Carol would understand me more. And it's just not true.
Mm-hmm.
Took a lot of years to train the one I got.
Exactly. Well, and specifically, we're talking an attack on marriage.
Of course,
I was
absolutely.
watching Dr. Jordan Peterson. You ever watch Dr. Jordan Peterson?
Yeah. I had to
really
think there
like.
for a second.
I really like him. And he was being interviewed by a single gal in her 30s, and she was saying, "I'm perfectly happy as a 36-year-old woman. I have a wonderful job, and I have no need for marriage." And he said something like, "You think you're happy, but when you turn 46 and you have no one, that's a different story.
Yep.
And then you're alone the rest of your life. Is that really how you want to play this?"
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's this idea of there could be something better than.
The devil's sales tactic.
That's right.
You're missing out on something.
Well, the pillars that we all grew up on, strong families or matrimony, having children, having a decent home. It doesn't have to be nice.
No.
I mean, today's world, what's happening is parents are living in these smaller homes, and the kids get home and they buy this huge home. It's like this is their version of retirement. Kids
Yeah.
are out. Let's buy a nice place for us.
Right. And one of the things that I study on is a thing called device elation. Device elation. We have 1/20th in the last 20 years,
Oh,
20,
I think I know where you're going.
2002 to 2022, we have 20 times less human interaction than we've done in the previous 20 years. There isn't the small town checker, the small town grocery store with more employees there than we know what to do with. The helpful smile in every aisle is not Hy-Vee's theme anymore. And even like our technology, we were at a family reunion here last weekend, and it got to be 3:00 in the afternoon. Everybody had eaten. The kids had been on the lake already, so it was a little kind of quiet, me time, downtime. 7 teenagers, 14 to 18, 4-year age span there. All of them, same room, heads down into their technology, not looking at each other, not talking to each other. Yeah, texting each other, sending them something, funny or Snapchats, but they're talking to 15 other people too. But they felt like they were so connected, but they weren't even there. So device elation. But anyhow, this goes back to what you were asking about. Would you recognize this even locally? Where have you seen the devil showing up in the last little bit with?
Yeah, sure. Apart from 2020, I was thinking, do we want to go into the veiling of the mouth and the nose? Because I think that's a big one. But there's subtle things that happen. There is a denomination in Brookings that has a picture of a rainbow.
Wow.
And
God sent that after the flood.
Well, the caption was, "God is still speaking," meaning there are developments in God and his ways of thinking, i.e., homosexual relationships are now okay. And that's true because in this country, we can get married if we want to. If I want to find a man, I can get married now. And
Right.
we can have homosexual relationships legally now.
I think I've seen a sign that said God never rejected anybody. And I don't know if I agree with that.
I don't think that's true. I think God has mercy on everybody, but when he draws a line in the sand, he doesn't say, "Well, it's okay."
Right. And at the end of the day, like, if you're trying to figure out where you belong in this mix, like, isn't there scripture that says wide is the path but narrow is the gate?
That's exactly right. It talks about the eye of the needle as well. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, God is still speaking to the human heart, but he's using the old in a new way. So his not rubrics, or you could say his law is constant. It's not changing. In a recent podcast, I was quoting, I can't quote myself, paraphrasing Justice Thomas, right?
Yep. Clarence Thomas.
Yeah, I don't know if you heard this or not,
I
but
did.
he would say something like, "There's chaos on Main Street, north is still north." He kept saying north is still north. No matter what's happening around you, north is still north. Sodom and Gomorrah, north is still north.
Right.
God is unchanging. So to the pastor in Brookings, South Dakota, that's Satan knocking on the door of God's people, the Christian people, saying it's okay if you want to be in a homosexual, lesbian, the LGBTQRSTUV relationships, and it's not okay. There's another really small, but I think it's really big, clue that God is knocking at the door of Brookings is there's a sidewalk from the Children's Museum towards Main Street. And they painted it in a rainbow fashion, rainbow colors.
The crosswalk.
And it was right before June, which is not Gay Pride Month anymore. It's now just Pride Month. But I think that was even last year. And so, the children, Noah's Ark, no, that was an agenda that Brookings community had. And God is knocking again at the door using the gay agenda.
Oh, but of course. And if we talk more about this, where's God knocking on the door? Where is he putting his stamp of approval on? But let's flip that around a little bit. Where is God putting the stamp of approval on things around in your life? Would you know Jesus if he came to your door?
Again, I want to say yes. But I think if we were transported 2,000 years ago and we saw Jesus interact and teach, we go, oh, I missed a lot of this somehow in my lifetime. I didn't quite see it because we're not in the Word, generally speaking. Christians are not in the Word of God. Yeah, you are, I am, my friends are friends, but generally the masses are not in the Word. And if you're not in the Word, and if you're not a praying man, it's very difficult to discern who's knocking at your door. Now, I would think I could tell, and I think in a lot of cases I can. Can I be fooled? You bet. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't think so, you need to reread Genesis 1, 2, and 3. Reread that, particularly Genesis 3. Adam and Eve were fooled. Because what Satan did is he showed them this other superficial world. It's like they put those goggle things on. What are those goggles?
Mom goggles.
No. The goggles
Oh,
thing.
the VR, virtual reality.
Yes, it's like they had virtual reality on, and there's a whole new world that they could grasp and bring it into their heart, and they said, yes, we want that. And then they realized they were naked. It's a shit situation that I find myself in often. Not that I'm naked. But we sin and we go, oh my goodness. So I do see Satan knocking on the door of, I think, in the political world in Brookings.
Where?
In the political world, just with the mask mandates and what happened and how many of the, if you want to go conservatives, rose up 2 years ago against the mask mandate. They didn't listen to them. They had their own agenda. They still continued this mask mandate. And the further we get away from the mask mandate, I think the more people think, boy, that was really dumb.
Right.
What are we doing?
What we thought was common sense isn't common sense. It was being led and separated and divided, which allows the evil one to win. We're seeing that with the way the policies are having to be written now, the way policies are implemented still in stores, and the people who get to make decisions and make decisions on our behalf, not only just in Brookings, Volga, Madison area, but think state level, think national level. Where do we see the devil playing out on those stages? Where do we see him knocking on the door and we're not even present to, wait a second, this doesn't fit the Word, this doesn't fit what God intended for our life or his Word.
I watched a Laura Logan video recently. Do you know who that is?
She's a superhero, right?
In the journalist realm, I think she is.
Okay, good.
I think it's Laura.
Laura.
I don't think it's Laura. I think it's Laura.
Okay.
Can somebody tell me, is it Laura or Laura?
Because she's
Laura
British,
Logan.
right?
She is South African.
South African.
Yes, in the British Commonwealth.
Well, British colony.
Same thing.
Yeah.
She has a wonderful accent.
Just beautiful.
I wanted to marry a woman with an accent like that.
Well, you did. Just not like that.
I didn't get the accent.
She has Western South Dakota
accent. If she could do the accent, man. Anyway, Laura Logan. The reason why I'm bringing her in, because, there's lots of stuff that's going on in our mainstream media. And lots of people don't know what to believe. My family's split down the middle. Can you trust mainstream media? They half say, yeah, you can. There's nothing different about the world. The other half of us are like, no, you cannot. And there's all these other people that they listen to, and things are not as they seem. And some of them are kind of hitting heads a little bit. Others are not. I'm in the middle somewhere. I'm not sure. There's crazy stuff on both sides.
But we talked about this, having an open mindset.
That's right.
Being able to listen both sides and use the God-given reason that you have to come to your own conclusion.
Yeah, reason mixed with hopefully a shot of Scripture and God's law and God's Holy Spirit speaking to us, but certainly reason, because God is reason.
One of the best guys I know, his quote every day is, get up in the morning, read the newspaper, watch the news, read your Bible. If you do that, you're going to know what all sides are doing.
That's pretty good. That's really pretty good. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, listen to that. So anyway, I was listening to Laura Logan, and she's someone who's been around the block. She's not one of these journalists who are, digital journalists or I think those people call them digital soldiers. She's been around the block. She's the winner of the outstanding coverage of a breaking news story in a news magazine. She got an Emmy for Battle for Mosul. And she's been, how do you say that? She's been nominated several times for an Emmy, and she also won. She's the winner of an outstanding interview with 60 Minutes Medal of Honor.
Whoa.
So she's a heavyweight. She's been around for 30 years. I think she was on CNN. I might be wrong. She was on 60 Minutes. Fox News had her on.
Say the name again, Laura.
Laura Logan.
Logan.
So I watched this video. She's being interviewed. And again, she's not one of these people that we've never heard of and they're doing the news the last 2 years, 3 years. She's a heavyweight, in my view.
She's got some street cred.
Well, she was saying something that people would say she's a conspiracy theorist.
People say that about us, too.
Maybe. I don't really care what people say about me. I do, but I don't. I'm
I
not
can
going to change.
tinfoil hat under the table. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, you know what? In 5 years, people are going to look back and say, those conspiracy theorist people were right about a lot of stuff.
Right.
Anyway, she was talking about this person that she knew. And he had been studying the occult. And he felt his call was to mingle amongst the elite, particularly those at the United Nations. And so he studied for years and he earned the trust of these people. And he's a heavyweight in the political world. She didn't say his name. She protected him carefully. And she was asking him questions, and he was basically saying this, that the elite in this world are a part of the cult. In other words, the Church of Satan. They're Satanists. And that's where she was going in this interview. And I'm like, whoa. What is she saying? She was saying that this gentleman who began mixing with people at the United Nations, at the World Health Organization, those groups, those three-letter agencies, or, two-letter if you think about the United Nations, the elitists are part of the cult, and they're Satanists.
So what's the goal of the occult?
What is the goal of the occult?
Yeah, what is the goal?
To destroy God.
Oh.
That's the goal. That's the idea. Or to hide God, which I believe is destroying God.
Sure, of course.
So that got me thinking, gosh, this is far out. Again, I just want to repeat for redundancy reasons, she is not someone who is just a flippant, new
journalist, politician.
Yes, she's not new. She's been around. And she's saying this. She's saying this, and she doesn't care about her reputation. And she's not only that, she's passionate. If this is true, just like our local communities, can we see evidence? So this is the question, ladies and gentlemen, and for you, Dennis and me. Can we see evidence of this being true? That the elite in the political world, or world leaders, are there signs that they are a part of the occult?
You bring up such a great point because... Yeah, to answer your question, yeah, I can see that. But if you can't recognize evil and you can't recognize devil knocking at the door, and we're supposed to trust the elite, the Faucis, the people who are in control or supposed to know what we as common people don't, and they're on the wrong side of this, and the trickle down is you don't question, like the military, you don't question the general. You carry out the marching orders.
I was just doing as I was told.
Yep, not my responsibility, just repeating the orders. Like, how far down does that trickle into national policy, regional execution, state and local government implementation, to execution by healthcare workers, police, fire, first responders, all the people that serve up the food chain to make the food chain work, but are getting backfed from a bad source. And I can totally see where this is played out in the culture. But so she's sorry, my mind's running like 300 miles an hour.
It's a huge statement to make, and she is not backing down from her statement. You know how sometimes journalists, they make these statements and then 3 days later they apologize. And what I meant to say, she is not backing down, and I think this is very interesting.
So what do you see coming from this? What do you picking up out of this?
Well, if you throw Christianity on politics the last 100 years, what do you see? Do you see peace?
No.
No, you see what?
War.
World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. I'm missing stuff.
I mean, you can even go before that. Like
you could.
You see, like, the Spanish flu, the destabilization of the world economy, then the trickle downs, and the rise of Hitler, and the Nuremberg treaties, and man, Korean War, Vietnam War, Desert Storm 2, if you want to call it that. I mean, really, the last 5 years has been the most peaceful 5-6 years we've had in a long time.
Yeah, the Trump haters hate to hear that, but it's really true. There wasn't any war that I'm aware of in the Trump administration.
No, and like 9/11 kind of rekindled the powder keg of the Middle East, going after Iraq and Kuwait and Saudi Arabia, and going in with the Bush Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then Clinton cleaning that up. Yeah, a lot of...
Oh, Clinton was before Bush, so it would have been Obama cleaning that up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's just map this out. God is the God of peace. Satan, in John chapter 10, comes to kill, steal, destroy.
Yep.
Have we seen that in the last 100 years? Throw Christianity on the world.
Yeah.
War, number one.
Yeah.
Did you know there's more deaths in the 20th century with casualties, deaths of war? There's been more deaths in the 20th century than all the other centuries put together in war.
Let's hope the 21st century is better.
So far, it's a little bit better.
So far. But the first 18 years turned out okay in 21st century or 20th century too.
So it's a different kind of battle that we might be in. But so war is the first thing that I think of. But what about political moves or the moves by, how about let's go this route.
Okay.
Let's go to the Supreme Court. Some of the things that have happened in the last 100 years. I am not well versed at the Supreme Court. You might be more versed, but there's a couple things that I can think of that are really obvious.
Okay, go for it.
The first one is Roe v. Wade.
The reversal or the implementation? 70s or now?
Well, I think the reversal is clear that they undid what should have never been done in the first place. You even have Dershowitz and other, if you want to say liberal lawyers and liberal politicians that would say that was bad law. That was bad in 1970. What was that, 3?
Yeah.
That was bad in the first place. And if those guys are saying it, then it's bad. And so you see Roe v. Wade. And now you might think, well, what about the women's right? The women's right to choose is a distraction. If you look at Biology 101, you're a doctor, you would know this more than any of us, that when the sperm hits the egg, you have the zeitgeist. What is it called? Not the zeitgeist. The
zygote.
Zygote. You have a full human person. Maybe there's a debate. Does it take 24 hours? I don't care. I'm not going to get into that debate. But you have everything you need. Read Dr. Lejeune's work, right? You have everything you need, the concentration camp. Everything you need for a full human person.
Right.
Nothing else matters.
No, you had 23 chromosomes from mom, 23 chromosomes from dad, and combined makes a full set of 23. That's a human being.
There's no debate.
Right.
There's no debate here.
You're not a unicorn. You're not a monkey. You're not anything.
It's not a woman's right to choose. It's a human person.
Right.
And half of those human persons end up being women. So ladies, think about this. Women's right to choose. Well, she doesn't get a right to choose in the womb of her mom. There's so many contrary things. So the number one thing I see is Roe v. Wade.
Roe v. Wade.
As a huge, but there's other things that have happened in the Supreme Court that prayer in schools is another one that they took out. Okay, throw Christianity.
Pull Christ out.
Yeah, yes. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Poor Christianity, and what's happened? Boom! You kick prayer out, you kick Christ out.
But again, it's the upper people. I mean, Rick Ribstein down here on 6th Street is not going to get to the Supreme Court. He's our local guy. But if he's following the law and textbooks that are written by the guys who've worked in the Supreme Court or clerked in the Supreme Court, and they're getting bad information, and they're doing decisions without the sound mind of consulting their Bibles and looking at historic context of what it means to be a Christian in a Christian country and having a God-centered life, like, the trickle down is going to kill any culture. Doesn't matter where it is in the world. If there's no room for God in it, we're screwed.
That's exactly right. I love how you put that. The trickle down is what is really running. So you have a group of elites, and I've believed this for a while. I actually got this from Dr. Peterson again. You know, who's really running the world? It's a handful of people. You would think, well, we've got our president doing our things, and Brazil's got their, president or prime minister, and China. No. It seems as there is a group of people pulling the strings. How could you have mainstream media? The mainstream media with the same talking points. See, to me, you should be able to turn on ABC News, CBS News at night, and they're all talking about different things, but generally they share the same stories. Well, that's because those stories are the most important. I don't know if that's all that's going on in the world, is those same stories and the way they talk about stories. I've said this before in a podcast. They asked Peter Jennings. Do you remember who Peter Jennings is?
Yeah, I remember him.
Yeah, he was on ABC, and he had written a book, and he said, there's a script. We have to follow the script, and our questions are on the script. And he was saying, I don't necessarily believe any of that myself personally, but that's my job.
I love this because I just found this the other night. It's called The Illusion of Choice. Media consolidation. Media has never been more consolidated than it is now. 6 media giants now control a staggering 90% of what we read, watch, and listen to. And they are GE, News Corp, Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, and CBS. Did you know that Disney in and of itself owns ABC News, ESPN, Miramax, Marvel Studios, and something else I can't read here? But it's unbelievable.
Oh, they're a heavyweight.
Yeah. CBS owns Showtime, something Ocean Channel, NFL, Jeopardy, and 60 Minutes. Time Warner owns CNN, HBO, Time, Warner Brothers Studios. The one I can't get past is Disney, because Disney itself is a household name for media, television, Walt Disney, cartoons, like cable. But they also make a ton of animated movies. But they own Marvel Studios. Marvel Studio owns Star Wars and the whole George Lucas franchise. Like, the number of movies that Disney itself has influence and power over for our weekend entertainment for those people that like to go to movies. Mic drop. Unbelievable.
How about you?
What about me? What about me, man?
Where do you see the opposition of God? Where do you see the opposition in the world of politics?
I'm going to back it up and not even talk about politics for a minute, because you let it off there with opposition to God. I wouldn't call my college education, pre-med education, an opposition to God. There was just no discussion of it. And the lack of having a conversation of it, if you can't talk about it, then you can't mention it.
And it might not be true. It might not be real.
It might not be real. It might not be true. It might not be factual based. But never once in our biology classes did we talk about creation or how life began. It was always the Big Bang Theory. Well, we primordial soup. We've crawled out of this and we've just evolved and everything else. Which okay, but there's so many gaps and holes in that theory and accelerated genetic mutations of why we went from Cro-Magnon man to Homo sapien, and we're just missing links in that jump, but they're there. And it's not that I don't believe that my professors intentionally didn't talk about God, but I know several of my professors didn't believe there was God. God wasn't in the equation, so we didn't talk about it. And they were my elite professors. They were the ones who guided my thought and logic process. Hey, you can't talk about creationism in your Biology 105 class presentation. You have to talk about what's in the textbook and what I lectured on. If you do that, you won't pass. So you go to school, you're spending all this money to get a degree, you do what the Romans do. So you just conform. But that left a lot of wide open gaps that just got filled with non-God stuff. And I think even as I went into the medical side of it, chiropractic is one of the most natural healing, body-driven belief systems out there for how we do healthcare. And yet in our profession, we don't talk about God. We talk about innate intelligence because we don't want to pigeonhole just to Christianity. Innate intelligence is something that there's something out there that coordinates all things and creates them all into existence. What makes a tree is governed by a greater force than we can see. But that applies whether you're Hindu, Buddhist, Christian, Muslim, or Native American. There's a higher power. And we were open to discussing those influences in our classroom and how they help the human body heal and how we came to be human beings. But there were liberal factions within our education on that, and they were very conservative. But it was honestly the only time in my 9 years of education where a higher power, a higher spirit came into the conversation. Now, I look at my counterparts in the medical field or even in the legal field, there's no room for God. There isn't. My insurance adjuster doesn't even have room for an active God with a storm blowing over my kids' playground and slamming into the side of the house.
Like, there's no active God in your insurance?
No, there's no active God in it's it's an incident of weather, or it's like these things are all being removed very subtly from our words and our conversation. Because if you don't believe in God and you have an insurance policy that says, well, it's an act of God, well, I don't believe in God. Okay. Well, then I guess we don't have to pay you. So, see? This is just becoming so Sodom Gomorrah, so ill-defined and gray, and what's confusing, and when something's confusing, the mind just says, no, I don't want to engage because this isn't simple, this isn't easy, this isn't clean. And believing and having faith should be the easiest thing we do every day. We're here. How the hell we're here? I don't know. But wow, we're here. Yay, God.
Yeah, everybody believes, but not everybody believes in God.
Right.
So there is religion everywhere.
Yes.
But it's what are you believing in? And this is the question I had years ago. Where is the Satanic Church? Where are they? In an earlier podcast, I explained that. Where are they? They're right in front of us. Mm-hmm. Right, literally in front of us. In our local governments or churches and the greater government and the greater world. They're right in front of us. And they've been right in front of us the whole time. And we could not see them because they come in disguises. There was a particular person that was such a good guy. He was a Christian. Was he? Mm-hmm. Look at the fruits of his work. And then answer that question. Was he really a Christian? Well, you can't import Christian virtues into politics. Of course you can. This is the whole point.
First line of the Constitution, in God we trust.
Yes, of course you can. Well, he didn't do Christian things at all. So anyway, what's your takeaway today?
I think you just hit such like a boomerang. Like we hit on the local of the fact that I don't know that given our life experiences, we would truly recognize an evil person, even though we're excellent judges of character. Like, we don't know that we would fully recognize the evil intentions of someone walking into our life. And on the flip side of that, we see this play all the way out up the food chain to the people that manage the platform that we're broadcasting on today. That I don't know if their intentions are pure, if they're God-centered, if every morning they get up and go, you know what, this is for the greatest glory of our kingdom, or if this is just about the almighty dollar or yen or ruble or whatever. But to bring it back down how the food chain can create the illusion that there is no room for God, God doesn't exist. We're not going to have an education. We're not going to have prayer in school. We're not going to have it be part of our policy making, if you want to get into the government side of it again. Like, there's just so much more to talk about this. Where would you recognize evil? Would you recognize the devil? And my takeaway is for what I said earlier. You know, if you watch the news, if you read the newspaper, if you're on social media, okay, take time out, give God a chance. Like, see what the Bible says about some of this, because it will really cause you to question, is everything that's happening around you for the greater glory of God?
Yeah, if you can't recognize it on the local level, you may not recognize it on the national level.
And local can be your house. It can be your own kitchen table.
Yeah.
Start there.
Yeah, if you're watching TV and you can't discern, what are they talking? That's bad. We shouldn't be watching this. You know, have you ever rented a movie, didn't do all the research, you were tired, you just wanted to get home? Maybe in your bachelor days, you just wanted to get home. You might not even showered. You went to Hardee's and you got one of their burgers.
Oh,
man.
no, Tony's Pizza. Tony's Pizza for 13 minutes in the oven and a 2-liter Coke.
Tony's Pizza. Where's Tony's Pizza?
You can get them at Hy-Vee.
Oh.
The little 13.
Oh, yeah. Tony's Pizza.
Tony's, yeah.
Well, we were Tombstone.
Okay,
I love the
all
Tombstone,
right.
but the Tonys were really good too. And you put the pizza in and you're probably making popcorn and you're getting your soda ready and you just sat down and you're watching this movie and you said to yourself, I wonder if I should be watching this right now.
Never.
Huh.
No.
You've never done that.
Nah, 15 years ago when I was single and bachelor, no. I would just watch it for whatever it was for the entertainment value.
Well, I would. I would watch movies and say to myself, I don't know if I should be, but I'd be curious and I want to see what's around the corner.
Well, I want to just keep up with the culture. I want to know what everybody else is talking about because they had all seen it.
Well, my point is, if you can't recognize it watching your own television, do you think you're really going to recognize it on your phones watching national politics play out? No.
Reels, you know how Facebook has your profile, the Reels.
I don't know anything about Facebook.
Yeah, Facebook and I mean they all do it. Snapchat, Facebook, Instagram, they're learning you, and they're putting content in front of you that you didn't even know you wanted to look at. But boy, can it suck you in.
So here's my takeaway then.
Okay, give me your takeaway.
My takeaway. That is my takeaway.
What's your takeaway?
But here's my solution. Rather, my solution is pick God's brain. For example, ask this question: Lord, what do you think about that? Lord, what do you think about that? And wait and meditate and see what he says. Because we Christians, all we have to ask God is that question: what do you think about this?
But I'm really, really impatient. What if he doesn't answer right away?
You're probably not going to get an answer, or you'll get an answer, but you won't take time with it. But you got to give God some time. You know, here's the thing. We go out on dates. We go out with our friends. We shower. We jump in a car and we drive half an hour to get to a restaurant. We'll eat and drink and spend lots of money and have a good time. And by the time the whole thing's over, it's a 3-hour, 2-hour journey. But we can't sit in a chair for 20 minutes and meditate? That's pathetic. And if that's you, ladies and gentlemen, get it together. Mm-hmm. Seriously, get it together.
You can do better.
Today. Don't start tomorrow. Start right now. Where can you find 20 minutes of just meditation? Oh, Glenn, I'm so busy. Then you're caught up because the devil came to your door and he sold you a bill of goods and you said, yes, 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 yes. And ladies and gentlemen, like Dennis said earlier, this is a bill of goods. We've all been sold these phones and I don't know how we get out of them. We just have to learn to live with them. So my takeaway is you got to figure out what God is saying. And he is still speaking. But it's always the old in a new way.
Yep.
It's nothing different. It's always the same thing. Final words?
God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. Just give him your time.
Perfect.
Okay.
Well, thanks for
What-
listening, ladies and gentlemen. That's kind of like abrupt. Give him your time. He's right. Give him your time. Anything else?
No, that's it. That's it.
Give him your time. Well, thanks for listening, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for giving us your time.
Yeah. And by the way, subscribe and tell people about us.
Yeah, share. Share with your friends.
Yeah.
This is what we're about. We're about sharing friends.
And may God strengthen
The bars of your gates.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Glen Gauer podcast, sponsored by Mission Blueprint. Mission Blueprint is a nonprofit ministry started by Glen and Jamie to sanctify the family. Our income is donation-based, and we need your help. Please support us financially by going to www.mission-blueprint.org and be a part of our financial team. Thank you, and may God strengthen the bars of your gate.